everybody, and welcome to another comic episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's the Dream Masters with me today?
Dream Master, Stefan JD.
Dream Master, Andrew Davis.
I couldn't think of it. That was right off the top of my head.
Going very Freddy Krueger here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking after I said it. I'm like, that's probably not the right choice as I'm talking. Okay, before we get too far, I want to give a quick shout out to another podcast I'd mentioned earlier in this month called Movement Radio. It's a podcast where professional wrestling tag team The Movement talk about topics such as wrestling, sports, haunted places, and many other subjects they kind of touch on. So if you need another podcast to add to your rotation, give them a listen and let them know we sent them your way. Or I did not say it. We sent you their way. Yeah.
We gave you a map, and there you go.
I blame the Angry Orchard I'm drinking, but probably not it. Long day. All right. Stefan, since this was something that you had recommended for us, a comic that I knew existed but never had read, you want to introduce what you picked out for us, what we're reading this week? Talking about
sure. I just want to give another quick PSA, though, before we start, that Mike he's not technically having problems with his microphone or something, but if he cuts out a little bit, we want to apologize for that. But otherwise, we are reading the Vertigo comic, which is a subsidiary of DC Comics, The Sandman by Neil Gaiman, which was has artists Sam Keith and Mike Dringenberg, Jill Thompson. A lot of artists, but it was a 70+.
And we're covering volume 1.
Yeah, because it was 70+ comics. So we're just doing issues 1 through 8.
And of course, there will be spoilers for this, of course, but you have been warned.
Yeah, but it came out in 1989, so
we should probably still warn them.
Yeah.
There are people. Okay, this is off topic. I'm going to say it anyway. When I was playing Final Fantasy IV earlier this year, and I posted something, but I was like, spoilers! And he was serious. I thought he was kidding. I'm like, this game came out on Super Nintendo. I don't think spoilers count anymore, guys. Just because you might have stayed oblivious to something, I mean, that's cool, but you can't be upset when you're in a gaming group and a gaming group posts something from a game that came out in the 90s. It'll be okay.
Especially if they give a PSA.
I didn't give a PSA. I just posted pictures and said hi. So. And we picked this comic mainly because we wanted to have a spooky comic for our October Spooktober that we were doing that I'm ready to be done with. I am not into spooky things.
Yes.
And here I am.
It's kind of a spooky comic, I guess. I don't know. Would you want to explain how it starts, Mike?
Oh, sure, I can try. Well, I mean, this isn't. One, I do want to say this is part of the DC universe and not part of the DC universe at the same time. At least back then, it wasn't. Vertigo was something a little different. It was a DC imprint, so they published it, and it has some of their characters, but it didn't really fit in the same universe. I want to say, you are going to have. Am I explaining it right?
I would say that Vertigo was a little bit more adult, is what it was. It was still DC,
that too.
But it was a little bit more adult. It's kind of like Marvel Knights.
Oh god.
Or Image Comics in general.
So this starts off in, I think it's 1930s. I want to say 1916.
I want to say before that. Yeah,
it is. It's June 6th, 1916, England. So I mean, I was reading this first issue and I was just confused because it has an old guy talking to cultists, and I'm being reminded of Oscar Crowley. I want to say that's the guy's name. The cultist that was, I think he might have been later, but it reminded me of that. And it kind of talks about just different horror, this different, this deity that they're trying to get. 'Cause these cultists are having a ceremony in the basement, of course. They're all wearing robes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to get the deity of death because they're dumbasses. So,
it never seems like a good plan.
Yeah.
I mean, just anything. If you're trying to catch a god, first thing you might want to have more in that circle, but hey, it works. But also, why would you want to get the god of death? To me, that just seems, or the deity, whatever the hell this thing is, it seems a little crazy.
Yeah, and they screw it up too because it's kind of like cooking. They think that they can replace garlic salt with basil and it'll still be a fine combination. But
what happened?
Basically,
not the garlic part, but
they try to summon death and they try to capture it because they want to be immortal and live forever. But they accidentally don't catch Death, which is kind of like a lady. They catch Death's brother, which is the Sandman. And he kind of appears, and they have like a little circle where he can't exit it because of the spell that's cast around it. So when they summon him, he's trapped in that bubble. And they strip him of his helmet, they strip him of his necklace, his jewelry, and then of his clothing. So he's basically naked. And he's super pale, long black hair. He kind of looks like the Crow. Yeah, the helmet.
A helmet just makes me, I just did not understand that helmet.
It kind of looks like something from Aliens.
I don't like it. It looks like a very messed up gas mask. And I was just like, what the hell is this? Like, I mean, this character just comes out, has a ruby necklace around his neck, a bag of sand, I guess, well, sand, but I didn't know what the hell it was.
Sand.
And this really weird mask. Looks like an alien wearing a gas mask.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't understand.
Yeah, but they use a book that's the main guy. His name is Burgess, I think, and it's given to him by a guy named Jonathan Hitchcock or something. And he wants to bring his son back from the dead. And he thinks that Burgess summoning death and giving them immortality is going to be able to do that. But the problem is when they get the Sandman, Hitchcock or whatever his name is, he realizes that Burgess is just completely freaking evil. And he not only can't fulfill his promise, but that he's using all of their money to keep this whole thing going because they're kind of like a super cult that's being funded by the rich of the time.
They also put him in a giant glass ball, right? If I remember correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Which is also strange. And and then it goes on as, I think it goes on for a few, overall, while he's in this ball, I know it goes on for years, but early on, one of the people who helped him get the guy betrays him and runs away with the 3 artifacts of the Sandman, the mask, the sandbag, and the jewel.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say it's the 1920s. Oh, 1930. Sorry.
Right.
So, and it kind of shows you how he's been, as time goes on, he's getting older, getting crazier, because, that's what goes along when you're evil right. Professor in this.
And the whole time the Sandman is just sitting there like, I'm just going to wait until I can get out of here. He doesn't say a single word to any of them. So through the years, you just see them like cajoling him, saying they're going to do this and that to him if he doesn't give them what they want. And he just stands there, stares at him, and says absolutely nothing. And the guy who ran off with the artifacts, he gets betrayed, I think. Or no.
Yes.
They have
the girl
he gets
leaves
betrayed.
Him.
Yeah, and the girl leaves, and she takes 2 of the artifacts, I think. One of them.
She takes the amulet for sure.
No, I don't remember that part.
I'm looking at it right now.
Trying to look at it
he
right
sold the helmet to somebody and
he sold it to a demon.
The amulet he sold to a demon.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait.
No, I think it was the helmet.
The helmet?
Yeah,
okay, the helmet. He's right, the helmet. I think he takes the amulet too, or maybe he leaves the amulet, and the amulet protects him, and then when his wife leaves, she takes the amulet, or whoever she is, and then he ends up dying because the amulet was keeping him safe.
Right, because what happens is when Burgess finds out of the betrayal, they start having this very small magic war across the globe where they're trying to cast spells on each other. But the guy who ran off with it, because he gave the helmet to the demon and he has the amulet, he's able to ward off the spells until he loses it, and then he's basically slaughtered.
It's a really gory picture, too.
Oh, yeah.
But, and then one of the other panels it shows, it goes in 1940. Yes.
No, go ahead.
Okay. It shows in 1947, and it shows the old man, and I didn't catch this until I read the comic. I didn't realize he's standing right at the edge of the circle. In the circle, it's just painted on that we're talking about. It's not made out of metal, nothing lasts. It's just they drew on the ground, like, don't touch the ground, buddy. And he's standing there, and he's crying and saying how, he should have helped him and that he's never going to let him go. And then the old man dies. And throughout this issue, they're also showing that there's all these people who can't wake up, who've been like sleep comas for years.
Right.
Because the Sandman, which they don't, do they know the Sandman? That
no.
They trapped?
No.
Okay. But the deity that they trapped is just stuck in there. And he's helped people sleep, I guess.
Right. So there's like one of the sad stories that came out of that is I forget her name now, but there's a girl, an 8-year-old girl who goes to sleep and she wakes up, and then when she goes back to sleep, she sleeps longer than she did previously. So she's starting to sleep longer and longer and longer, and eventually she's in a sleeping coma, to where later on we find out that not only was she raped in the coma, but she had a child. And then she starts dreaming of this child that she had, which it's super sad and kind of gross. Yeah. But all these things are happening across the globe. And the Sandman, because he's trapped in the circle, he can't help them dream and wake up or go back to sleep, because there's also a soldier who can't go to sleep who takes his life because he's just going insane being awake for a year. Which I don't even know how that's possible physically.
I think there's also one that's like just endlessly like sleepwalking.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just stuck in like a zombie state.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, unspeaking sleepwalk through his world.
And the old man who has Dream in the circle, when he's going away in his wheelchair, he's like, "Take me back up to wherever he's going is better," whatever. The wheelchair slides over the circle and breaks the spell. So now all the Sandman has to do is escape the bubble. And he starts to fake like he's playing dead, so that they come down and the guards are like, well, that's never happened before. He's never done that. And they open the door. And as soon as they open the door, he blows sand in all their faces. And what happens to him is they go into an endless sleep is what it's called. Dreamless sleep, endless sleep.
Yeah, close enough.
And basically what it is they continuously are caught in dreams. So when they wake up, they think they're out of the dream, but they're just in another dream.
Eternal waking, I think it's called.
Eternal waking, that's what it is. Yeah. And it's kind of fucked up.
Yep, it just seems horrifying. Just every time you think you wake up out of that nightmare, then you're back in it.
Yeah.
It's Inception.
Basically.
Also, one thing we hadn't mentioned, they had guards around this bubble 24/7 for like 50, 60 years, however long, or more
70.
than that, maybe
70 years.
Yep, 70.
Long time just to pay people to sit here and watch a naked man. I do like it that after he's escaping through their dreams after he blows the sand on them, and it shows him running around grabbing food and clothes from the dream. Which I just thought was funny, at least the food part.
Yep. And I think he explains too at some point that the time he spent in there, his like time to him is the same as time to humans. So he says 70 years. Can you imagine how long that was? That's a human's life. And it went at a snail's pace. And I think he's talking to the grandson or the son of the guy who imprisoned him.
And
he's like,
after he goes to the guy who's old now and is sleeping. The son is all old, but also like we were talking about with that girl. And then all the people start to wake up. Like the sleepwalker finally stops sleepwalking. The girl who's been in the coma all this time wakes up, and it's a real sad scene where she's like, I dreamed I had a baby. And I guess my brain didn't comprehend when I read this until just now what happened. Like, oh, that's more fucked up than I realized.
Yeah. For me, actually, surprisingly enough, the book didn't click until after he escaped. Then I was like, oh, now I'm on board. Now I'm starting to get it. Because it was about the same for me. You in. Yeah. You just don't know, because it's going through all these like explanations of people dreaming and time's going really fast over the years and people are getting older and all these things are happening. So you just don't know what's going on at first, and you kind of have
like a lot to take in with the first issue.
Yeah. It didn't draw me in right away either. And then when he does find the son of the old man and he makes him pay the price for what he did, he does the same thing where he puts him in this forever sleep, or where he doesn't realize he's asleep, and it's terrible. Endless nightmare or something like that.
Endless waking.
Yeah.
Okay, same. Eternal waking.
Oh, eternal waking. Yep.
Close enough. It's the same. And like,
we're on the ball today.
Hey, at least I have the issue. but he thinks he's awake, and he's seeing all these weird things happening, like a nightmare. Like his nurse all of her head just falls off, starts talking to him. So very nightmarish things.
Yeah.
Where he's like, he says his is a nightmare everlasting, eternal waking. Which I don't know why they don't just call it nightmare everlasting, but hey, I don't write comics.
Well, I don't want to knock Neil Gaiman, and I'm pretty sure this isn't true, but I do kind of wonder if any part of Freddy Krueger helped in the making of this. I'm just curious about that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm just curious because it's very close to Dream Nightmares. Yeah. But
kills you and you're dead. So
yeah. But so anyway, his journey after that, after he escapes, is to seek nourishment and gain his items back. And there's 3 items, which we decided each of us are going to explain the items separately. D, do you want to take the first one with John Constantine?
Yeah, I'll take the first one.
Okay.
Basically, I believe John Constantine just bought like a bag of sand. Does it ever explain why he bought that? Like, he doesn't want to use it at all.
I think he was at a yard sale and he just knew
bought it
that
at a yard sale.
it had magic powers, and he's like, oh, well, I'll just get it because I know there's something about it that I need to, like, I need it. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically, like, his junkie girlfriend just stole it from him.
Yeah.
Pretty much sums it up.
Well, one thing I do like about it is right as it starts off, because the Sandman is heading, because in issue 2, Sandman had went to some other places within the supernatural world, and he's able to contact the 3, think of them like the 3 witches, kind of like from Hocus Pocus, and he's able to, and they tell him, we'll answer 1 question each. So then that's how he kind of finds out where all his items are. And as Andrew had mentioned, that it didn't get stolen by a druggy girlfriend. Junkie. Also, my brain just stopped. It's like, nothing's there. And I do like it that as he's walking around, everywhere he goes, there's radios, and they keep playing, Mr. Sandman, won't you give me a dream? Bum, 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 bum. And it just keeps playing that at all these different places, which I thought was a really funny thing. He just keeps hearing Mr. Sandman. And I think he even says something where he's like, yep, something's wrong here.
Yeah, and
he says something like, something's trying to tell me somebody, or I think that's how he words it.
So, that somebody's coming or something?
Yes, it's something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he bought it at a garage sale in San Francisco.
Yeah, but his it's kind of sad. I mean, I don't want to say that this whole story is sad, but there's a lot of sad crap in it.
Close to it.
When John Constantine and the Sandman, whose name is Morpheus.
I got nothing.
I think it's Mobius. Wait.
Okay, I'll talk real quick while you're looking that up. But also, like, he's looking for the pouch, and like he doesn't even know where it is. He's looking for it, and all of a sudden he realizes, that it got stolen by his ex-girlfriend from years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Which we had mentioned before. When they go to her house, it turns out she's a junkie and been on the sand.
And when they find the apartment that she's in, all the like monsters of like the dreams and nightmares or whatever are kind of protecting her. And Sandman kind of casts them aside, and he's like, go back to your place. And they're like, Master? And then they realize that he's come for them. So they kind of go back into the sand, and he goes in there, and they both see his junkie girlfriend, who is like deteriorated. Like her skin's starting to like peel off, and she's kind of lost her mind. And John Constantine asks the Sandman, he's like, can you please do something about this? We can't leave her like this. And the Sandman basically puts her to sleep and then puts her to death, basically. Which it's weird that his sister doesn't show up, but yeah.
He puts her in a dream, and then the dream shows where her and John are together. And it's like, did you miss me then? He's like, nah. And then she's like, bastard, love you. And I know. And then okay, I thought for a second that maybe he did something. Then you realize that, and the next scene shows that he just killed her. But he let her die not knowing that, able to die.
He basically just wanted to give her like a peaceful death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And fucking dark. And sad.
It's kind of cool though that right at the end of it, there's like a little hint of happiness where John Constantine asks Morpheus. He says,
okay.
Is it?
You keep going.
Yeah. He says, I've been having a lot of nightmares, and he's like, I know you don't, I don't have a favor from you or anything, but is there any way you can take them away? And he's like, yeah, I understand. And then that's when John Constantine starts walking away singing, Mr. Sandman, bring me a treat. Ding, 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 ding.
Make him the cutest that I've ever seen.
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay. I'll introduce the next part, then I'll let you take it away from here. So one thing I don't think we kind of brushed on the 3 items, because the problem is the 3 items where he put a lot of his power into, and without these items, he can't become full Sandman again. And that's why he's seeking these items. The sandbag, the mask, which looks like alien, and the ruby. And for the second item, he ends up having to go to hell.
Right.
The mask.
Because this leads back to the guy before who was seeking help from the magic that was being cursed on him by Burgess. And he made that deal with that demon. And the demon has the other piece that the Sandman's after. So he goes to hell, which is great. I actually like the way they drew hell in here because it's just barren. And the walls of hell are just made of bodies and pieces
it
of
also
people.
like takes parts of like Dante's Inferno and puts it in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's creepy as hell.
Yeah. But it's great. It's great.
Okay, we'll go with great. I did like to introduce Etrigan.
Oh yeah, Etrigan is the one who leads him to Morning Star, Lucifer, and he doesn't actually really play a big part, but it is weird that Etrigan's in hell. I don't know where he usually is.
He's a man possessed with a demon. He's in the Justice League cartoon, so he's the big yellow goblin-looking demon thing with a blue cape and a red cloak that you would seen in many different DC comics and animated movies.
I just recognize him from Swamp Thing.
Oh yeah, he's also in. It's Alan Moore's Swamp Thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was Alan Moore Swamp Thing Vertigo also?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe so.
I think it started DC and then went Vertigo. I can't remember.
Well, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing it's the part that everybody knows. There's Swamp Thing before that, but he doesn't really get big.
Swamp Thing before that's also really good. The Bernie Wrightston.
It's a very adult book. It's about a giant plant dude who has sex with a girl with white hair. Anyway,
basically.
Moving along. So yeah, he goes to hell and he talks to Morningstar and he asks him why he's there, and he says, "I'm here to get my shit back." And Lucifer is like, "Oh well, I'm sorry, but I actually don't rule hell anymore. There are 2 other people here that rule it with me. There's 3 kings, and I forget their name. Beelzebub is one of them,
yes,
right?
Azrael
is the other. Lord of Flies, and Azrael.
Azrael looks like a giant egg sack made of eyes. I don't know what else to say. A beehive with eyes in half of it. It looks like an ugly piece of.
Mm-hmm. So what happens is they don't know which demon it is. So basically they summon every demon in hell to come to them. And when they come, one of them gets singled out by the Sandman. And they played it. He says, "All right, well, if you want it back, because I didn't break any rules of hell to get it. So if you want it back, you have to play me in a game. And whoever loses has to spend an eternity in like utter pain, being tormented or whatever." And they play this really cool game. I'm not sure what the point of it is, but it's just a back and forth. Do you guys know what it's called? I don't even know what it's called.
No, but it's like whatever like pops in your imagination, and someone else needs to just like come up with something that will just top that.
Yeah, like the first thing that he says is, he says, "I'm a dire wolf, prey stalking lethal power." And the Sandman counters by saying, "I'm a hunter, horse mounted, wolf stabbing." And then the demon says, "I'm a horsefly, horse stinging, hunter throwing." And then it goes on, and Sandman says, "I'm a spiderfly, consuming 8-legged." Until eventually they get to the part where the demon says, "I'm a nova, all exploding, planet cremating." And Sandman's like, "Oh crap, we've come to the end." And he finally says, "Well, I'm hope." And the demon has
farther.
The demon's just like, I don't know.
yeah, I don't know.
And at the end of that, and then they grab him and wrap him up in like thorns or barbed wire, his naked body, because of course you got to make him naked first, and then they wrap him up and pull him down into another part of hell.
It's great though because he's specifically under the power of Beelzebub. And when they're taking him down, he's like, Beelzebub, protect me. And then he's like, no, sorry, brah. You gotta go.
Was it just me or Lucifer looked like a freaking like angel in this? Was he? Well, I guess he is an angel, so supposed to be.
He looked like the chick that plays Lucifer in Constantine the movie.
Don't remember. I've seen that movie once, and I don't remember anything about it.
I don't remember her name. I can look it up.
That's okay. And then he gets the mask. That's the important part.
Yes.
You're right, it is Morpheus.
Yep. Tilda Swinton, that's her name. She plays Gabriel, not Lucifer.
Oh, I didn't know Tilda Swinton was in Constantine.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time. I forgot that movie exists.
It's a good one. But, and before we let Mike get into the third and kind of final act where he gets the last piece of his equipment back, before he leaves hell, Lucifer says, wait a second, why should we let you leave? Like, we could just take you right now. You have no power to stop us from keeping you here. And Dream says, you say I have no power, perhaps you speak truly, but you say that dreams have no power here? Tell me, Lucifer Morningstar, ask yourselves, all of you, what power would hell have if those here imprisoned were not able to dream of heaven? And without anyone saying anything, they part and just let them walk out. And Lucifer's like, you son of a bitch. It's great.
It's pretty fucked up. And then the little epilogue or the end part of that, which kind of leads into the next part with Dr. Destiny, is all of a sudden it just shows some crazy guy they call him Destiny, and I didn't know who this was really because I haven't read a lot of DC comics, but I like it. The sign says Arkham Asylum. And just smiled.
Yeah, we should mention that there is a lot of crossover between the actual characters of Justice League and like some villains and everything. They do run into the Sandman in Volume 1.
Yeah, well, you have a couple early parts that we mentioned with John Constantine. Also, I like it when John Constantine leaves, or at some point he makes a comment about having to go to a swamp in Virginia. I think it's Virginia or wherever Swamp Thing takes place. I don't have it pulled up at the moment, but he makes a comment about having to go there to deal with something. Mm-hmm. And I know Constantine plays a big part in the Alan Moore Swamp Thing comics, if I remember correctly.
He's actually, his first appearance is in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing.
Oh, yep. Okay.
That's cool. I've looked at the prices for that. I do not have that kind of money.
Hey, it's cheaper than Swamp Thing, I'm sure. Swamp Thing's like a $1,000 book.
Oh, yeah. I think that the first appearance of Constantine, I've seen it go for as low as $300.
Damn.
So, yeah.
He doesn't seem like a major character up until like even the movie didn't really. I didn't collect comics back then, but I feel like it's the Arrowverse that made him more popular.
Yeah, and well, he did have his little own show for like 2 seasons, I think.
Yeah, how'd that go? One.
Yeah, I think it was canceled immediately.
It was canceled real fast. Did not do well.
No, and I gave it a chance too. I probably watched, I want to say at least 6 episodes, and I was just like, no. This isn't what I wanted. Like the acting was good, but the story was lacking.
Never seen it. Probably never will. But okay. Mm-hmm. And then the next part, it takes the reins away from Mr. Sandman, and it brings you to a different character that you hadn't met before. The little end of that last comic, which is Dr. Destiny in Arkham Asylum, and this is an old, frail-looking man with no missing teeth, no hair, and naked for some reason. Mm-hmm. Who killed the guard and trying to escape captivity, and then he ends up walking by and seeing somebody hanging themselves, and I thought that was just hilarious because it's as he's talking to the guy who's not dying, it's Dr. Crane, as we all know, a scarecrow.
Right.
And I like that scene, and he's just talking about how okay, I'll see you when you get back. He's like, I'm not coming back. He's like, sure, I'll see you when you get back. And then as he's walking out there. And he even tells, if you see the Joker, tell him to hurry back. It isn't April Fool's Day without his little jokes or something, which I just thought I really like the little references to the rest of the universe. And then you also, as he's walking by, he sees a guy that is being hung for I'm assuming it was the Scarecrow. This is a scientist kicking in the back. Maybe Joker. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't think it's specified.
I just like how everyone in Arkham is like kind of friends. They're all this little clique, like, oh, we'll miss you after you do your crimes. And Batman brings you back. Catch you then.
It's accurate, isn't it?
It is.
They all come back.
It's great though.
And then he ends up, as he's trying to escape, he ends up stopping a car. And of course, if you see somebody standing in front of you with a gun, just pull over and stop. That makes sense. Don't just run them over. Just stop for them. Especially when they're naked, And then he comes in, he stops, he's like, trust me, I'm a doctor. And the next part, maybe you can explain a little bit more for me. I know it's...
I can explain this one.
Okay, that works for me.
This introduces Scott Free, who is Mr. Miracle.
Okay.
He was introduced in Jack Kirby's Fourth World. Basically, he's a superhero that's an escape artist.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, escape anything. The Fourth World's kind of complicated. He was, I believe he's Darkseid's, or no, he was Darkseid's adopted kid that was raised by Granny Goodness.
Yeah, Granny Goodness. Yeah. Because Darkseid traded him with the other. He traded his son for a son to create peace between the worlds, right?
Oh,
yes.
His son is Orion, right? The guy in a jetpack. That was for some reason in the Justice League during our Yes, the Superman reading that we did earlier on the show.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, they traded it like.
Don't you trust
they traded
me,
Orion for Scott Free.
Okay.
For like peace between the worlds or something.
And he hates him, right, or something. Because it looks like he's in a very. I know it's just a dream where in the scene that you do see in this issue, but it isn't like it looks like a freaking hell. So
Granny Goodness does a good job just torturing Scott Free. Actually, the reason that Sandman wants to, the reason Sandman asked him for help was to give him a name because she just called him Scott Free as a joke.
Just because Scott Free.
Yep.
I just got that. I am so slow.
So yeah, she didn't even really give him a real name, so that's why when Sandman comes up to him, he says, "You want to name Scott Free? I'm a friend. I've come to reclaim something of mine, a ruby."
Okay, oh, yeah. I knew who he was because he's Mr. What the hell, Mr. Miracle? Mr.
Miracle.
Okay, I know of him from comics and from some other comics and some things that I have read in the past or seen, or mainly another podcast I listen to. They talk about him a lot because they're really big DC fans.
Mm.
That's the only way I knew of.
Andrew's been hounding me to read that little run too. Who does that run?
Tom King.
Tom King. That's right.
We also
his run is fantastic.
We need to read that Vision run. To be honest, but
his Vision run is really good. I think his Mr. Miracle run is even better.
I have to do that on this show coming up here.
Yeah, they will be on the show at some point, just so everyone knows.
It just takes us a while because we only do these once a month, so we don't get as many out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and the next part, and it kind of goes back and forth. It shows you with Dr. Destiny and this random woman that doesn't matter, and then she's like, "If you try to kill me, my husband's a hitman for the mafia," and I thought that was funny. But that also comes and then so he's taking her at gunpoint. They're talking, and he's apologizing for who he is, and that he didn't mean it. That he's just trying to get help, and then he's got it. And she's driving him to the storage place somewhere in I don't remember what state they're in, and they're just driving, and he's talking, and they're getting closer and closer as this goes, and it kind of jumps back and forth to Sandman, who's with Scott Free, and I think are they in the Watchtower? Or they're somewhere?
Yeah, they're in the Watchtower. And Scott Free is asking himself, he's like, who could I call this early in the morning? And he thinks of Batman, and then he's like, no, I'll call
Batman would be working right now.
Yeah, he'd be working right now. He's like, so I'll call John Johns and the Martian Manhunter. And as soon as they get there, Martian Manhunter sees the Sandman, but he sees him as like a demon or something else. Like a god of some sort from Mars.
A god.
Yeah. And he tells him
I'm skull.
Yeah, and Sandman asks him, he's like, I need help seeking this ruby. And John thinks about it. And he says it's in a storage. And he's like, where? Warehouse upstate Gotham. That's where it is. Little town called Mayhew.
Yep.
And Sandman disappears, and then that's when we go back to Dr. Destiny, who's in the car, and they're still talking, and then you see the sign that says Mayhew 5 miles. So they're right about to collide with each other.
And then Sandman is using people's dreams to get there, and it shows different scenes, different people's dreams as he's jumping through there, because that's how he travels, is through people's dreams to get where he's trying to get to which is the main huge story.
Correct.
And then he ends up finding the ruby before Dr. Destiny does. And I swear, I don't know Dr. Destiny from anything before, but in the picture that I did see him, he looks like the freaking Taskmaster from Marvel. Even though I know he's nothing like that character, but he has a skull face. Or maybe like Skeletor, a blue cloak.
He is a lot like Taskmaster. The story I remember of Dr. Destiny is from the Justice League animated series, where he is sentenced to, I think, Arkham, and they experiment on him. And then he gets the power to go in dreams and when people go to sleep, he gets to keep them asleep in their dreams.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, but I vaguely remember this.
Mm-hmm. And he has to come up with a name because his real name is John D or something. And he's like, who the hell is going to remember John D? And he's like, D, Dr. Destiny. And then that's where his name comes from.
Okay, I kind of want to watch that episode now. Huh.
It's a great episode. It's one of my favorite episodes.
That whole show is great. Let's not everything about that show is great. But and then he finds the ruby, and without even thinking, he grabs it. And over time, because it's some years, the ruby has been corrupted by Dr. Destiny, and then ends up knocking him out. And he completely just passes out in front of the ruby.
Mm-hmm.
And
then a really awesome scene happens where Dr. Destiny gets there, and he's like, "Oh, Rosemary, who's the chick that he's been in the car with all this time." He says, "Your husband Harry, is he really a mafia hitman?" She's like, "Harry?" She's like, "Oh God, no! It was just something I said when I was, scared you were dangerous, crazy, or something." Harry's a high school teacher, and he says, "Oh, well, I don't suppose it would have made any difference either way." And then he shoots her in the face. Sorry, I love that. I love that scene. A lot of dark humor.
It's brutal.
Yeah. But then Dr. Destiny goes in, steps over the Sandman, and grabs the jewel and leaves. Mike, you want to explain what happens?
Yes. And then so Dr. Destiny leaves with the amulet, and it gets just a really fucked up issue. So he goes to a diner. And in this diner, he's just sitting there. He orders a coffee or whatever. And no one's suspecting. And it has all these people who are sitting at this diner. There's different conversations are going on. It talks about how the waitress wants to write a book or is writing a book or something that she's never published, and all these different people. And everything seems normal. And if you just keep reading, Dr. Destiny's sitting there drinking his coffee. Looks like a madman. He has hair now. Still just looks ugly as hell and insane. And he's just sitting there, and everything's normal, and people are just being normal. And all of a sudden, things start getting strange. They start saying things that they shouldn't be saying. They start imagining things. The TV says some weird stuff as he's watching TV, and all the characters just start acting very strange. It doesn't click right away that he's making them all dream. Like there's one image of a husband and wife, and she has his head on a platter. And I gotta say, for some reason, I'm assuming it wasn't coincidence. He looks like Trump from the 1980s. So,
I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. That's not a coincidence.
Yeah, and he's married an older woman too in this comic, which I can't remember if Trump's first marriage was an old. I think it might have been an older woman, but I could be wrong. Can't remember.
I think it was Ivanka.
How was it?
No,
Ivanka. It doesn't matter. And then it gets even weirder. Like they have a scene where Dr. Destiny naked is riding on top of their shoulders, and I'm like, okay, it's strange enough. And then all of a sudden, one guy cuts off his finger and feeds it to him or something. And I'm just like, what the hell? And they all start killing each other and having sex, whatever the hell they're doing. It just gets really messed up. And then they start realizing that it's him that's causing this. And they confront him, and then it just says like hour 15, hour 16, and it isn't. And then here's a scene where she freaking somebody nails the guy's hand to the table and just keeps doing it, and it just gets messed up. And
yeah, you start to actually see you start to see how messed up Dr. Destiny really is with this power in his hands, like how dark and evil and sinister this guy is. He does not have any quarrels with making people dream about the worst shit possible.
And the thing is, they're not even dreaming at this point. Everything they're doing is real. And you end up, the scene ends at hour 22, and they're all dead. There's a head decapitated, a woman shoved a nail or something through her eye. I mean, and he just leaves. He's like, okay, here, time to go. And that's when Sandman walks in to stop it.
And he's just like, glad you're here. It was starting to get a bit boring.
He's so fucked up. Oh,
it's great.
It's really fucked up. But
yeah. But he says,
and then
yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I'm not sure what he said. Sorry, you skipped the next issue.
Well, he just says you've robbed me of it. He's like, I cannot use it, and I'm no longer strong enough to repair the havoc alone. Can you not see what you're doing? You must listen. And Dr. Destiny's like, this is yours? Oh, your soul is in the heart of this jewel. It's yours, and I stole your power. I've been using it all these years, I see. And he says, very well. He says, why would I give my baby to you? I'm going to kill you. And Sandman says, kill me? With the power of my own ruby, perhaps he could if he absorbed too much of my soul stuff already. But I see you would have to fight me. Mortal, you will not take me unprepared. And then he puts his mask on. And
stupid alien mask. I don't like it. And then they fight in like a weird dream world, which is really confusing. And of course, he's still naked. Because, why not?
Because it's Dr. Destiny.
Is he always naked in the... Or I guess Vertigo, so they can do what they want, like draw. Yeah, so you have naked Dr. Destiny fighting him. It's just... I didn't really care for this issue. And then eventually Sandman does win, of course, and he ends up getting his ruby back, and it was just strange as hell. I did not.
Actually, he doesn't. I don't think he ends up going back the ruby back. Dr. Destiny just destroys the ruby.
You're right. He destroys it, and that releases his power back to him.
And then he takes Dr. Destiny back to Arkham, where Scarecrow jumps out and goes, boo! And he's like, oh, wait, sorry. Hang on, I can't see anything without my spectacles. But he basically takes him back to Arkham.
It shows you how dastardly of a character he is, especially for a character that I don't really have any type of connection with and never even heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I watched that Justice League episode, but I don't remember it because it's been a long time since I've seen that episode.
Yeah, it's really good. I appreciate the Flash's part where he's just sitting down watching this cartoon of himself taking out bad guys, and all the little kids are like, what's a cur? And he's like, what's a cur? Never mind. I don't know. Yeah, and then all the little kids just start turning into monsters and trying to eat them. It's great.
The only thing I really remember from that show is there's one scene where Flash like, I'm the fastest man alive, and Wonder Woman's like, no wonder you can't get a date. He's like, what? And he just goes completely over his head. I do love that scene. That's one of the. There's a lot of great scenes in that show, like when Batman sings "How Blue I Am" to save Wonder Woman. That's another great one. And then he doesn't think she heard him, and then she's like, then she starts singing it, and he just walks away, or something like that. It's been a long time. I do love that scene.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then that kind of wraps up the main arc of the first of this first volume, and you have one more issue that we do want to talk about because it is the end of this arc and I guess the beginning of the next volume, which we are not doing on this episode.
It's kind of an epilogue that leads into talking about Sandman's sister, who is deaf, and the last issue is just them talking in, I think it's Central Park, and they're feeding pigeons.
Starts off in Central Park. It goes elsewhere, but I do like he's sitting there just feeding pigeons, and someone kicks a soccer ball and he just catches it without even looking because he's a god. So I did like that. And there's this kid playing ball, and then this girl walks over who looks like him, like a goth with black hair, wearing all black with I didn't notice before, a cross on her chest. And she just talks like she doesn't even know who he is.
Not a cross. What's it called? It's like some Egyptian death.
You're right. It's an ankh. I scrolled farther than I realized I was mistaking it. I saw a better image of it. But I do like it how it acts like at first like they don't even know each other. They just start randomly talking. And then it takes a little bit, then he reveals that it's his sister and that she's deaf.
Also, I love that death is the most upbeat thing in this whole volume.
Yeah.
Out of all things.
She's super excited to see him. She's like, oh, I missed you, brother. How's it been?
She starts yelling at him because she was worried about him.
He didn't call for help or something all this time.
Yeah. Yeah, she says, you could have called me, and he says, I didn't want to worry you. But basically what he's saying, the reason he's talking to his sister is because he's kind of relieving his feelings about how when he felt like he got all the pieces of himself back that he would feel whole, but for some reason he just feels like nothing. And and she's like, well, like, why? And then that's when he explains, I don't know why I feel like nothing.
Took away his will. Like the idea that you go after something, you're going after this goal, and I mean, it's in real life too, and you're working so hard to get this goal, you get the goal, and you realize that, oh, what do I do now? I spent all this time trying to achieve this one goal. I don't know what to do anymore. That's kind of what it is. I mean, I've been there before, especially in a very non-important thing when I used to play Final Fantasy 11. Hey, I got the Corinzo sword. Oh, what do I do now in this stupid game?
Yeah.
That's probably the meaning thing to some people.
Also, I love when the kid kicks the ball and she catches it. He then like says, "Can I see you sometime?" And she's just like, "Yeah, you'll see me real soon."
What I guess the line is, so hey Fox, like, you want a soda? Could I see you again? She's like, sure, Franklin, you'll see me again soon. And he's like, wait a second, how's she know my name?
And then they're gone.
Like Batman, except they actually teleport. They don't just hide in the darkness and fly away or whatever the hell he does.
Mm-hmm. But it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool how they are brother and sister, because he goes on this journey with her where she has to do her appointments, which, because she's deaf, she's going to meet people who are going to die. And you get to see all these people like die in weird ways. Like one guy gets electrocuted, and then it gets to a really sad one where a mother is nursing a baby and they're just standing there watching in the background, and Death goes, picks up the baby, and the mom comes back and she starts crying, dropping the bottle because the baby's dead.
That one was depressing. That one hit me.
Yeah, but it's really well written and drawn though. It's great.
Like the first two aren't so bad. It's an old man sitting there playing on his violin who realizes it's time to go, and then someone else, a comedian, gets electrocuted, and then like you said, the baby one, that's the one that was just like, oh, because it's coming at that. We're like, oh no. But I mean, she's deaf, and that's what she does, and she goes and collects people.
Right. And then there's this very famous line in all of Sandman where some guy gets angry that she's coming for him. She's like, hi, I'm Death. I'm here to take you. And he's like, but why? Like, why me? Why now? Like, what do I get? Why does this happen to me? What do I get? And she says, you get the same thing everyone else gets. You get a life.
That's kind of,
I don't know.
and then the final part is you have them. You see Franklin get hit by a car, and then he's like, and then he ends up seeing Death, and he's like, "Hey, it's you. Once you said you see me again soon, I didn't think you meant this soon." And then that's when Sandman then leaves her, and then she's like, and she takes him to the other side and tells him what happened.
She's just like, "Yeah, there's something you should probably see here."
Yeah.
Poor Franklin.
The last scene, he goes back to feeding his pigeon, and he feels better. He found the solace in, even though he accomplished his goal, it doesn't mean that his life doesn't have meaning anymore. I think what they're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's still really sad. This whole book was off and on. Like this last issue just made me very sad.
Wasn't it so spooky?
Yeah, none of this was really that spooky other than Dr. Destiny. But I mean, I think people think of Sandman. People do think of horror, to a degree. I'm assuming it gets more spooky and more darker as you read other issues.
I've read up to volume 6, which is where I stopped reading. I couldn't get into volume 6. I'm sure 7, 8, 9, 10 are better, but it doesn't really get. Yeah, it doesn't really get that spooky per se. It just kind of goes. It tells more tales of the family, like because they're. Like Death and Sandman aren't the only part of the family. There's like despair and famine or something. And then it also talks about other people like making bets with death. Some dude who lives forever, and the Sandman always goes and visits him. Just really cool stories. Like Volume 1 is definitely an opener where the rest of them actually explore the universe a bit more.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will probably read more of this again someday.
Yeah, I'll definitely pick up like the second volume soon.
It interests me.
Volume 2 is so damn good. You guys are in for a treat.
Originally, we thought about doing Volume 1 and 2, but then we decided against it.
Mm-hmm. That we did.
Unfortunately, I don't know how long we've been recording due to reasons.
I think it's under an hour.
Close to that, I think. All right. Any last things? One thing I should bring up that normally I would say earlier in the show, but I forgot to. I do want to ask, had anybody besides Stefan, have either you or Andrew read this at any point before? Or not you or Andrew, me or Andrew ever read this before? Or what they knew about Sandman before coming into this episode?
It was something that I've been meaning to read for a while, but no, I never got around to it until this episode.
Same. I've heard about it because of a podcast, and I knew it existed, but I never would have had anything to do with it if it wasn't for this podcast.
I would have probably got to it eventually, but I'm not sure when.
I mean, I have had it recommended to me by people, such as like James from Overblood, but I just never cared enough. I'm not a big comic reader. I've always just kind of stayed away from it.
Mike says that, but he has like every Invaders comic or something. What is it?
I have almost the whole run of Volume 1 of Invaders from the 70s. I think I'm missing maybe I think I'm missing annual number 1, and I have the giant size, and I have the whole run otherwise. And I don't have their first appearance, which is in an Avengers issue.
Oh man, that's crazy.
But I can't. The problem is I have all my comics are put away in a box, and the box is in storage, and there's a lot of trouble that would be involved in getting that box comic out to figure out what I'm missing to actually go and buy it.
Right.
So, otherwise, I would, because except also the issues I'm missing aren't cheap issues anymore. Like they're not just $1 bin or $3 issues; they're more expensive.
Right. I assume so. Well, at least tell everyone, like, because we've been doing this for like what, 4 episodes now, 5. Are you enjoying reading comics now that you're kind of reading them for the show?
As long as they don't involve Freddy and Jason, I'm enjoying them.
That was a pretty bad comic.
Oh God, it was a good episode. Terrible comic.
That's true.
But yes, I do enjoy reading again. Like it's nice to be doing this.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it too because I get to relive old issues of stuff that I either liked or didn't like, or new stuff, which Mike referred to the Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. That some of it was good, some of it wasn't.
You're also into those characters. I'm not really into those characters or anything to do with that world.
That's true.
So for me, it was just a lot of pain and suffering.
Yeah, you were along for the ride.
I didn't have a choice.
But yeah, thanks for doing this episode with me, guys.
Brown. Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was good to have you back on. It was good to finally record this. We've actually been meaning to record this one now for what, like almost a month.
Yep.
We just had difficulties. We hadn't gotten around to it.
I remember last time Andrew was like, "All right, I'm ready," and I was like, "Oh," at the tell him the bad news. We're putting it off a week again.
And that was the second time we put it off too.
Yep. But
that's how we
finally got it done. Yep. Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes bullshit. Happens a lot with podcasting.
Should you tell everyone what happened this episode, Mike?
Sure, we'll put it in here. You probably won't notice, but there was at one point while we're recording, and unfortunately, since I'm the guy that does that is recording on my end, I've lost somehow. Don't know why. I just lost internet completely. I just disappeared. Yet Netflix is still running next to me, and everything was fine. Or Amazon Prime, whatever the hell it is, and everything's fine. And all of a sudden, I'm talking. I'm like, wait a second. Why is this little circle on the bottom of my screen? And I click on Skype. No internet. And so I'm like, oh my God, I'm trying to get back in the call. But since I'm the one that made the call, I'm the one doing the recording just stopped. Thank God it still saves. Plus I have a backup running in the background for this. in case such issues happen. So when you're listening to the final product, I've pieced it together by now.
Yes, and me and Andrew were like, Mike? Mike?
You see, now if you were doing, if it would happen to you where you just disconnect, and I'm doing the one recording, everything would just keep flowing smoothly, it would just keep going, and then we just have you come back in, which has happened before. But it never happened to the guy recording it lost the connection.
We're just like, what do we do now? Like,
it was great.
All right, I do want to say, if you like what you listen to, even though I know we did break down Sandman, I would say go read it. You can, go read more than just volume 1, but it's something, even like any comic, yes, we can break down the story. Yes, we're giving you a basic knowledge of what you're getting yourself, what it is, but there's so much more to it. We just gave you the first sample of the story of what there is out there for this entire 76 issue run that many people consider one of the greatest comic book stories. I feel like I'm not guilty in saying that. I think people actually it's something that people believe.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think it's pretty obvious. We really don't have to go over it too much, but we're probably all going to put this on our shelves, I imagine.
Definitely.
So we're not. We're just going to do the quick version of it.
We can talk about it. Yeah, I just didn't know if you were going to skip over it, so I was like, I'm guessing that's what we're doing.
I almost did, and then I'm like, oh, and then I remembered as I was talking, and I was just getting there. Mm-hmm. But Stefan, why don't you go? We'll do shelf for box. Stefan, why don't you go first?
Yeah, sure. When I got the Sandman Volume 1, this was completely, like Mike said, on the internet. I was looking for something new to read that wasn't going to be people in tights. And I just kept thinking, like, well, what's one of the things that everyone talks about? And Sandman entered my head. And I'm lucky enough that I have a record store near me where I can go there, and they generally have graphic novels like under $10, no matter what it is.
A weird record store, okay.
It's an amazing place. It's called Zia Records. Anyway, I digress. I picked it up, and like I said earlier, I didn't know what was going on at the beginning of the novel. You don't know what's going on. It's just throwing things at you. Like, here's the general beginning plot. And later on, as you pick up, I immediately got sucked into it. When Dream escapes from his capsule that he's being held in, I was just on board. And the next day I picked up Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4, Volume 5. I got all the ones they had. And I read up to Volume 6, which is where I stopped. But it's great. Volume 1 is amazing. If you're even remotely interested in Sandman, please, I implore you, I forced these two people to go read it. You should go read it.
One of us going on my
shelf. Yeah, it's going on my shelf.
All right, Andrew, how about you?
Yeah, definitely going on my shelf. I'll probably be picking up Volume 2 soon.
It will be a while before we do it on this show, so feel free. It won't be anytime soon. We don't tend, especially with us only doing these once a month. It will probably be some time before we dig back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have other stuff I want to read.
Yep.
So, all right. I'll go last. I'm going to put this on the shelf too. I mean, it's not my favorite, but I did enjoy it. There were like the first couple issues, I had a really hard time reading issues 1 through 3 or so before it really got going for me. And it was the constant thing when that arc happened that really grabbed me, and then I just kept reading, which is issue 3. And it ended up being really good. I ended up enjoying a lot more than I was expecting to. And when I got to the last couple issues, I couldn't stop reading. I just kept reading all like one night. I just sat there and just read like 6, 7, 8. And these are not simple reads. Like you look at current comics, lots of images, not a lot of text bubbles. Everything goes by quick. This one took a lot to absorb and a lot of information to digest and get through. But definitely going to go on the shelf because it deserves it.
Yeah, this is back when writers used to write. And I'll give a perfect example. When I took airplane flight from Arizona to California, it only takes like 45 minutes. And I had 2 issues of Chris Claremont's Uncanny X-Men run with me on that flight. I didn't even finish issue 2 by the time we landed.
It sounds about right.
Yeah. There's like so much more writing going on back then than there is today, where I could probably pick up an issue, anything, and read it, finish it in 5 minutes.
Okay. Like, long before we started this podcast, I once told myself I'm going to read Avengers, and I started Avengers 1. I got to maybe 10 before that plan was done. I just couldn't do it. I could not. I mean, those early, those comics in the 60s, Silver Age. I mean, I love collecting them, and I love the covers. I can't read them. Just can't do it.
I can do some like Jack Kirby's Fourth World is still really good.
We might have to do that on the show. It'll involve a lot of
that would be very. It's about 1,500 pages. I haven't read the whole.
Right, that will not be happening on this show. Spoiler alert: we're not doing that. We do too much other crap on the show to do that.
Yeah, if I in a perfect world, if Mike had the time and was willing to do it, I would make Mike read all of Chris Claremont's Uncanny X-Men, but that is not possible.
I'm still have to only make my way through it.
Yeah, even Andrew hasn't finished it, and he started like a year ago or something?
No, it was only like a few months ago, I believe.
Oh, okay. I can't remember, but
it's only
been a while.
Months.
I did read Giant Size X-Men #1, so that counts, right? That's all I need to read. I read that.
That's a good start.
A reprint. I own a reprint of it, and I read Hulk. I read Hulk 180 and 181. So I read that.
Oh, those are good issues.
Yes, I have a reprint actually sitting in front of me of Hulk 181. It looks just like it, but the price tag says $4. So, but
probably not the same.
Funny story. Before we wrap this up, we're about to end this podcast. There was so I was at a comic book store and I'm digging through their quarter bin. I'm just looking around, and all of a sudden I see a Fantastic Four 56. I think. What's the first appearance of Black Panther?
Okay, we'll cut out the silence. It's not 56, I don't think.
52. I was close. Okay, So it was Fantastic Four number 52, and all of a sudden my jaw just drops. I'm like, does this guy not know what he has? And I pick it up, and it looks exactly the same, and everything looks the same. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the price. The cover. The cover felt a little off. I'm like, this seems like a bad material. I flip it open. Everything looks a little odd, but it looks normal. I'm like, okay. So I grab a stack of comics, put it in this pile. I found these in the quarter bin, and he's scanning them, and I'm like, oh my god, did I just find like a treasure? And it was a reprint of Fantastic Four 52. And everything looked the same. It had the same type of look to it, except the price tag wasn't there, the 12 cents, which I didn't catch right away. But everything else looked exactly the same, and but the cover was like a cardstock cover and just felt off for something from that era. And it didn't feel old. I'm like, what the hell? But I only paid 25 cents for it, and I have a reprint of it. It looks cool, but I really thought for a second I got one on them.
I actually own issues 1 through 4 of Black Panther in the original run.
Those have a little bit of value to them.
Yeah, they're not. It's not too high, but
before that movie came out, he was not a high book. You could have bought it easily for under 100.
Oh yeah.
Now, not so much.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my funny story. I think it's time to wrap up this podcast.
All right.
Any last things you guys want to say?
Go read Sandman right now.
Okay. So no last things you want to say. All right. I want to give a quick shout out to the podcast I mentioned earlier, Movement Radio. There will be a link in the show notes. They talk about wrestling, among other things. I want to thank Bulby, aka Mike Stoney, who let us use the music Cool Kid Squad from his EP Bite the Bullet. Did I say that right? Who knows? Follow him on YouTube. And it's been one hell of a recording. I want to thank everyone for listening. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I constantly post images of what's coming up. I do want to appreciate everyone who's taking time out to listen to these bonuses that we do, or they're not really bonuses anymore, extra content that we're giving you guys. And also, please spread the word. If people like podcasts, have them subscribe to the show and help. That's one way you can really help the podcast out, is spreading us like we're the tea lighters. All right. Thanks, everyone. You have a wonderful night, everybody.
Mr. Sandman.
Won't you give me a dream? Make you the cutest that I ever seen. Unfortunately, I didn't pull it up before I started this. I was going to sing it. That's not happening right now. It's been a hell of a night. All right. Bye, everybody.